Well, good to see everybody. I am in Winston-Salem now. I haven't been able to figure out where I've been the last week. So basically, after the bowl announcement, I've been on the road recruiting and got back 2 hours ago. But we're really excited to be playing in the Belk Bowl. We'd be excited about any bowl, but I think, you know, as an accomplishment for our football team to get into a Tier 1 bowl is a big deal. You know, certainly the ultimate goal is to be in the college football playoff or the Orange Bowl, and you know those are the things we're shooting for. But then after the Citrus Bowl, these are the 4 Tier 1 bowls, and it was our goal this year to get into a Tier 1 bowl or higher. And so this was a goal that we accomplished. All of them are great bowls, whether it's the Tax Slayer, the Pinstripe, the Sun Bowl. For us to be playing 2 hours away, hour and a half away, which is close to our alumni base and our fan base, and probably the most central location that we could play for our players and where they're from, the Belk Bowl is a great opportunity for us. So we're honored that they invited us and they wanted us to come to their bowl, because we certainly wanted to go to their bowl. You know, I think the opponent is a great opportunity for us. I mean, Texas A&M is you know, it's one of the iconic programs in college football. You know, this is why a guy, you know, Jimbo Fisher leaves Florida State to go to Texas A&M. It's funny, I was there 2 years ago looking at their facilities. That we did a trip and we looked at Texas A&M, Baylor, and TCU to get ideas for our facilities. And we spent a lot of time at Texas A&M. Coach Sumlin was very gracious, showed us around. We saw the weight room, the team rooms, the hydrotherapy areas, the stadium. I mean, they've got a big-time setup, and that helps them in recruiting. If you look at their last 5 recruiting classes, I think 4 of the last 5 years, they've been the top 10 or top 12. I think 3 years they were consensus top 10, 1 year top 12, and 1 year in the teens. So they recruit great players. They have great players on their football team. Obviously, they're going through a coaching change, but I'm very familiar with both their coordinators. John Chavis, their defensive coordinator, we worked together at Tennessee, and he is excellent. He's as good as there is in college football. I mean, he is tough, aggressive, has great anticipation for what the other team's about to call. I was in the box with him during games and just listening to him call defenses, and you know, he almost knew what was coming. He was really sharp, great player developer, and one of the top coordinators in all of college football. I think he's the 2nd highest paid or something like that. So he's been all over. And then Noel Mazzoni is our offensive coordinator. There's a group of coaches 20 years ago that were running one-back and spread offenses really before it became in vogue. And I was doing that at Villanova and Fordham, and Noel was doing that when he was at Ole Miss and Auburn. And there was a group that would go to a different place every year. 1 year it was Washington State, another year Auburn, and we would clinic, and I got to know Noel then. And Noel is, you know, one of the sharpest minds in all of college football. So you've got 2 excellent coordinators still running their side of the ball. You have an extremely talented football team, great offensive skill. You know, Kirk will be one of the best receivers we've seen all year. You know, they've played 2 different quarterbacks, 2 different tailbacks. They're big up front, and defensively they can run. They're really aggressive. And I think it's a neat matchup because, you know, there's a lot of argument, what's the best division in college football? Is it the ACC Atlantic or the SEC West? So to get matched up against a team from that division with the players and the caliber of coaching they have is going to be a great challenge for us. It really is. These guys are, I would certainly put them up there with the, you know, the Clemsons and the Notre Dames and the NC States and the Florida States in terms of the talent level of their football team. I mean, this is a, you know, I don't know, top 2, 3, 4 of the teams we've played from a talent standpoint. So we're going to have to play really well and not turn the ball over and do all those things, but our guys are excited about it. And we'll go out and practice today. because of the signing date change, December is just frantic. I mean, I've never ever remember traveling and going this hard in December. So really, we got the bowl announcement. I was on a plane an hour later, and I just got back 2 hours ago. So I've watched a little bit of film on Texas A&M. We'll really start our prep for them after finals. So we're not as deep into the opponent right now as we would typically be for this press conference. So, my detail in terms of what they're doing in the kicking game and all those things, isn't what it normally is on a, when do we usually do this? Tuesday? So we've got, over what? When do we play? The 29th? So we've got 3 weeks. 3 weeks from today we're playing. So we'll have time to get into that when our kids are done with finals. All right, fire away.
That's a perfect segue to my question, Coach. And when you get 15 practices, if I remember, for the bowl.
No, that's you get 15 spring practices.
Okay, so how many practices do you get for bowl?
As many as you can get in. But
so how do you distribute those out as far as do you
we don't get it. We don't get in 15. What we do is, we became bowl eligible, and then we're on the road. So we practiced last Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Have the players lift twice during the week, but we're at Wake Forest. It's at the end of the semester. Guys have papers and finals, so we gave them a couple of days off this week. We gave them. A couple of days off so they can study in academics, and they lift for an hour. So we really want our players to get rested, to heal up, to get fresh, and be excited about playing this game. And so we'll practice today, tomorrow, and Sunday, and then we'll be off. We'll bring them back on the 19th, 10 days before the game. We'll get in, a good 4 or 5 practices, and then head down to the bowl. We want to get the game plan in before we go down there. So when they get down there, they can enjoy it. And we want to make the bowl experience a very positive one for the players. It's one of those pleasure business trips that, there's a purpose to why we're going to a bowl, and that's the primary purpose is we want to win a football game. But we also want the bowl to be fun for our players. We want them to enjoy the bowl and enjoy Charlotte and all the different events the bowl has, and the dinners and the shopping spree and all those things, because we want our guys every year to want to go to a bowl. Did you see the reaction after the Syracuse game? And it's, we're going bowling, because our kids, it's fun. And so there's a real balance there of wanting to get better as a football program and practicing, but we also don't want a team that's burned out and doesn't look forward to the game. And I thought last year we had a really good balance with that, and we're on a very similar schedule this year. The only difference is the game is 2 days later. Did that answer your question?
Perfectly.
Okay, thanks.
Dave, you mentioned it was a goal to get into a Tier 1 bowl, and that you accomplished that. And a few weeks ago, I remember we were talking about John, and you mentioned sometimes in your career you haven't taken the time to appreciate goals reached, and that kind of. Have you had a chance being on the road the last week to appreciate?
I would say that, this past week, I was in a bunch of houses and high schools, and I was at the College Football Hall of Fame dinner up in New York. And, great season. I watched this game, I watched that game. Boy, you guys played really well there. It's not like I go to bed at night and smile and say, hey, but I think, just even in recruiting, I think we feel like we have a good class, and like always, there's people coming in trying to flip our recruits, and they're getting new offers, and maybe in the past, if that had happened, kids would be more interested, but I think they see what we've done and the games we've won and the bowl we're going to and the facilities we're building, and I think they feel Wake Forest is even more of a solid choice now than when they made it 5 or 6 months ago. And that's the enjoyment from it, that I do feel there is an uptick in recruiting. We run national TV how many times this year? And, in home games, how many times were we sold out? Last year, again, we got to a bowl, and now I think this year we did take another step. And it showed up with our home attendance, and sellout games against NC State and Florida State and Louisville. And so, you know, I just think it's a much more concrete message. And, you know, it's one thing when you're sharing a vision, and it's another thing that when you're starting to make those steps that 2 or 3 years ago you claimed and said that you would make. So now the next claim is a little more challenging. And we're making it, and we're going to get there.
This is a question I asked John. He was up here earlier, but since you guys have this month off, does it kind of feel like first game of the season, preparing for that game since you stay fresh?
I'd say it's a little different. I think at the beginning of every year with your opener, you're not quite sure what you are. You're not sure what your identity is. I mean, I couldn't tell you when the year started that Greg Dortch would be Greg Dortch, or that we would play with so much tempo, or we'd get as banged up as we did on defense. So as you go through the year, kind of the personality of your football team and the way your formula to win games every year is a little bit different. When you play an opener, you're not sure what that formula is yet, and you may not know till the 3rd, 4th, 5th game. I think we know what we are now. You know, so in terms of our style of play and how we're going to play, but in terms of having this much week to prep for a game, absolutely. You know, I told our players that I think the 3 best opportunities to out-prepare an opponent is the opener, off your bye week, and a bowl game. You know, when you have 1 week, you can put in a little more time. When you have this much of a break before games, you know, when you're free at night, it's easy to procrastinate and watch the movie or do this or play the video game. When you do that, watch that half-hour film before you do that, and that will help us win a game. Because all of those guys remember the feeling in the locker room last year at the Military Bowl. That was one of those all-time highs. And that's the feeling that we want to experience again, at the same time knowing how good the team is we're playing and how talented they are and how hard it'll be to do that.
You mentioned Greg Dortch a couple times. Is there any sliver of opportunity?
Zero. There's 0 chance he's playing. I wish he could, but it's going to. It's the nature of what happened is we'll get him back for the spring, and you know, to play him for the bowl game would be to risk something that a father would never risk for his son. So it's if he wanted to play, we wouldn't let him. You know, that thing takes time to heal and heal correctly, and hopefully we've got Greg for 3 more years. So there's a lot of football for him to play.
You mentioned the Noel Mazzoni. You were on the clinic staff?
No, I wasn't. It was so it wasn't like really. It wasn't a clinic that high school coaches paid to. So it was really neat. It was back in 98, and at the time, Mike Price was the head coach at Washington State. And they were throwing the ball all over the yard out of 1 back. And back then, there were still a lot of teams that were 2-back teams and 2 tight end teams. And so what he did is he held a clinic, and he invited 1 team from every conference that was running spread concepts. And at the time, I want to say Noel Mazzoni, I think, was at Mississippi before they went to Auburn. But I met Mike Leach there. Mike Leach was at Kentucky. I met Noel, so those guys were in, I think, different divisions in the SEC. The Montana staff was there, the Utah State staff was there, the Washington State staff was there. Gary Croton, who at the time I think was at Louisiana Tech and was throwing the ball all over the place, was there. And it was coaches from all different divisions that were throwing the ball and running spread, getting together and brainstorming. How do you handle this? How do you do this? And that's when I met Mike Leach and Noel Mazzoni and a lot of other really, really outstanding football coaches. And I learned a lot. And the next year, I think Noel and Tommy Tupperville and that staff went to Auburn. The next year we went to Auburn. And so I'm not like good friends with Noel or real close with him. He's an acquaintance. And when I run into coaching conventions, we say hello. But always impressed with his coaching acumen, his organization, his game plans, and he's had a lot of success at a lot of different places. He's a really good football coach.
You mentioned, you know, the SEC-ACC battle. You know, the fact that Wake Forest is here in the Tier 1 Bowl. You know, how do you look at this matchup? You know, knowing that you're going up against the premier conference.
It's you watch the film. Again, we play premier teams in our conference. You know, Clemson, Florida State, NC State, Louisville, Notre Dame. I mean, Georgia. We play good teams. This is one from another division, and when you put on the film, you know, they're playing Alabama, and they're playing Auburn, and they're playing LSU, and they're competitive in winning those games. So our players know they're good. They know they're fast. They know they're physical. I mean, you know, our players know it'll be a challenge. So, I mean, it's, you know, sometimes you get those matchups or those bowl matchups that you got to convince your players they're good. When you play Texas A&M out of the SEC West, that's not an issue.
Is there a challenge not watching too much tape, getting over-prepared with so much time in between?
No. So you can never have too much time or watch too much film. It's what we do. That's our job, and we love doing it. So, you know, what do you enjoy doing?
Talking to you.
Do you?
Yeah.
So you can't get enough of this, huh? Okay. See, you know, a media guy lies, and you guys won't get called in the carpet for it. If I'd tell a lie up here, I'd get hammered for it. So that was a good comeback.
Coach, how much thought do you give that they could completely change some of what they do, or is it too late in the game for them to do that?
I mean, I'm sure they're going to have wrinkles. They have an interim head coach who's a special teams coordinator, and you know, I hope all their coaches get jobs and they have one foot out the door. So, you know, I mean, you know, I guess Jimbo already said they're going to kick our whatevers, and so that's, you know, I mean, if he's going to talk trash like that, he should at least have to coach in the game. So, you know, what is open? Somebody told me his opening press conference. You know, he said they're going to kick our whatevers. So it's, I didn't know he was coaching in the game. So, thanks, Jimbo.
After all the nice things you said about him on the television.
I know. I always enjoyed Jimbo. I thought we got along well. I guess we didn't.
In fairness, when I read that, I read it as the chancellor had said it, not Jimbo, but I'll check into it.
Okay. Somebody told me he said it, but you know, he's not coaching in the game, and so, you know, I mean, I can, you know, it'd be like me talking a big game for Clemson against Alabama. You know, I don't have to live the result of it, so it'd be easy.
Ryan Anderson told us a couple weeks ago, I think it was before the NC State game, that the offensive line watched tape of the game against State 2 years ago, and he thought it was going to be fun to look back at how far they've come, and it turned out like a horror movie. But I know we've talked about the offensive line before this year. Just if you can encapsulate how far along they've come.
They've done exactly what I thought they would do, and they've done exactly what I thought they would do 3 years ago. Right, Les?
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, and those are things at times you just bite your lip when people are critical of the O-line or critical of your offensive coordinator, or they can't do this, and why are we doing this, and why are we playing him? You know, I believed in who we were playing. I believed in who was coaching them, and they just had to get older and develop. You know, I don't know anybody at this level that plays the amount of freshmen we had 2 and 3 years ago that is consistently good. You just, you know, but I thought Ryan Anderson would be a really good center. I thought Phil Haynes would be a really good guard or a tackle. I thought Justin Huron would be a really good tackle. I thought Patrick Osterhage and Nate Gillum and Jake Benzinger would be good players. They just needed time, and they came in here and they weren't where they needed to be from a size and a strength standpoint, and very few freshmen are. But those kids worked hard, they cared, it was important to them, and I'm really, really proud of them. And I felt 2 years ago that the offensive line would become a strength of our football team, and it has. We've got 3 kids that were all conference. You know, so, you know, when those things were said, you just bite your lip, and you don't say anything back, and you know, people have a right to be critical, and we weren't good, but it wasn't their fault. They were put into a situation they shouldn't have been in. I mean, I hope for the rest of my time here, you know, when you're starting freshmen on the O-line, that's really hard. And again, maybe we'll get an exceptional player at some point that does that. To do 3 and 4 of them at once against a Clemson D-line, an NC State D-line, a Florida State D-line, a Louisville D-line, a BC D-line. You know, this is a great D-line conference. So, but I'm really proud of those guys. And, you know, now they just got to stay hungry. You know, they were told how bad they are, and now they're all conference, so they're told how good they are. And they just got to do the same thing. You know, if you didn't listen to people when they said you weren't good, don't listen to them when they say you're good. Just be the same person every day, and your work habits and your preparation is why you got where you are. Don't stop doing that.
Ryan Anderson tried to relay to us one of the phrases you tell them in relation to that. He doesn't know if he got the phrase right. It's something along the lines of, if you're not going to drink the poison, don't drink the punch. Is that it? Or?
Yeah, if you're not going to drink the poison, don't drink the Kool-Aid. So if you're going to ignore people that were critical of you, don't start listening when they tell you you're great. Just, you are who you are. Be that person, and be that person every day. And you know, I think that's easier to do as an adult. You know, and through my career, at times people thought I'm a good coach and people thought I'm a terrible coach. And that's the nature of what we do. You know, if you win, everything's great. If you lose, everything's terrible. And, you know, you just try to be consistent and be the same way and have a plan. And you hope the players follow that. And the challenge goes on. You know, our challenge this spring and this camp after the bowl game will be different than any other year. But it's still a challenge, and it's not going to be easy to sustain it and keep building it, but that's what we have to do. And we have to do it with kids like Ryan Anderson and Phil Haynes and Justin Haran, and they need to get better. And if they feel that, well, geez, I'm all conference, I arrived, we'll go right back down in a heartbeat. So we got to stay hungry. And right now I'm hungry, so can we end this so I can eat? Oh, come on, I'm trying to wrap it up.
You mentioned this early signing period. You've been on the road. Do you enjoy that? Do you like it? Stressful?
The early sign period? No, I was against it. And I think the whole idea of now we're going to officially visit juniors the spring of their junior year is absurd. This is insanity, what we're doing. So no, I'm not in favor of it, but these are the rules, and this is how we've got to operate. And so I used to have 2 months to see all of our committed players. Now I've got 12 days. And then, you know, these kids are going to be in their 6th semester in high school. They're going to be 16 years old, and we're going to be bringing them on college campuses and spend the night. And our players who hardly get any time off are going to have to host them. And the 6th semester as a high school athlete is your critical semester. That's the one you've got to get your grades up to make sure you can not just be a qualifier, but get into a school like a Stanford or a Northwestern or a Wake Forest. And these weekends are going to be visiting, they're not going to be taking the ACTs or the SATs. It's insanity, it really is. It's just, we've taken a fast process and made it faster. And, you know, there's a part of the early signing date I'm good with. I think for the players who were committed, it'll be nice to go through January and not have to, you know, keep seeing them every week and all that. But this next cycle is just going to come so fast. And again, I don't understand why we're doing it. I don't understand how that benefits a 16-year-old kid, that he's going to take 5 official visits on weekends. Like, there's like high school kids now that aren't playing baseball and aren't playing track and aren't taking ACT and SAT prep courses because they want to take 5 visits in the spring. I want somebody to explain to me how that's a positive. How is that good for the student athlete? So again, I'm against it, and I know our whole conference was against it. In our ACC football conference, we talked about this, and we were unanimously against it. But somehow it got passed. And, you know, I mean, I'm a father. I wouldn't want my junior in high school visiting college campuses by themselves with a host and, you know, going to college parties. And, I mean, it's hard enough when they're 17 and 18, and now they're going to do it when they're 16. There you go. There's my soapbox.